Hello, friends, family, and keepers of the faith, to another Del Boy blog. And this one is labelled Year 2 Blog 35, or in legacy numbers, Blog 87. And it's dated 22nd of the 10th, 23. And really, I keep saying it every week, but my God, time is going so fast. And I look out the window and the weather is so different all the time. And there's leaves now on the ground. It could be sometimes considered to me one of my favourite seasons. Probably because memory always takes me back to going back to school. When I was going to primary school, I used to walk through a park, which I still can do because I'm in the same house as I was when I was in primary school. And there was all the leaves on the ground. I remember in the summer, and just at the end, we'd go conquering, chucking sticks into trees to get the conkers down. But going back to school was always those wet leaves, the orangey brown colours, them being wet underfoot. Magical times, really, when you think about it. But we won't dwell on that. We'll talk a little bit about my week. My week has been actually not bad. I would say normally the highlight of the week is always interacting with my friends. And I really did have a ball of a time on Scott's stream, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. My friend Rock God was there. Keith from Euphoria Pictures, a number of people. We were all having a blast talking about films. And the stream ended really, like at the end, just like normal. But then what happens? Your internet connection drops. Now, when that happens, you don't realize it at first. So I was looking at things and I was actually uploading something for my friend Rock God. He'd mentioned in the stream something that he hadn't seen and I was uploading it for him. And it's quite a large file. So what happened is that this was taking an age, and I went, why is this taking an age? And I realized that the internet had dropped. So it took a good 25 minutes to get the internet back up. And to be quite honest, the first thing that I'm doing is trying to get everything back up and then trying to finish what I was doing, which I thought was a nice thing for someone, uploading the file. And then I realized, well, there's always these after talks, after you do a chat, we have a little chat more. And I thought, oh, they probably wonder where I've been, what's gone. And to be quite honest, I didn't really want to stop the party. You know how it is where people are nice, having a nice chat and all of that sort of stuff. So I made a decision. I thought, nah, it's all right. I'll let them carry on. It's quite late. If they were worried, they'd have sent a text. So I didn't get a text. So I thought, they're just continuing, and went into the next day. So it sort of ended on a bit of a hollow note. But what I need to say about that show is I had such a blast. I got my point across on a number of films. I interacted with everybody. Quite proud of myself, listened to some films that I've never heard of and wrote notes about those for me to watch in the future. And everybody is so pleasant and nice. Do you know what I mean? That you just go away with a sort of like warmth. You know what I mean? And I think my friend said it best, Mainmeister. He said, the thing about when you do your own YouTube channel, especially if you do some stuff that's live, is it becomes addictive. It becomes like a drug that you've done it once, you've got the nervousness out of the way, and then you want to keep doing it. You want to do it more. And I definitely feel that every time I talk to my friends, because they become close friends. People that, their personality, Those little chats at the end, you get to know more about them rather than the persona. Do you know what I mean? Me, I wear my heart on my shoulder a little bit. And, you know, sometimes that can be a problem. Not so much, you know, that I'm not aware of it. I'm very aware of everything that's poor in me, if you see what I mean. But the highlight of the week, I must mention this, is that the ITIL, the course that I was on. Now, I was nervous about this because, as I mentioned in my blogs before, when I did my ITIL 3 course, and this is ITIL 4, so it's the newer version, ITIL 3 course, I had 8 weeks. 8 weeks before the training, 3 days training, the exam right at the end of the training. You didn't even leave the training room. You did the exam. If you didn't do the if you didn't do the exam, you had another resit to do it, and you left passed. If you failed it the second time, obviously, I'm not quite sure what happened. I passed it the first time, ITIL 3, but only just. So, me thinking, wow, I've got this, all the books and all the coursework 2 days before the training, was no time for prep. And then you've got 3 days of training, which was quite intense. The trainer always said, sorry if it's a little bit dry. I didn't find it dry. It's just I was writing down and trying to listen to what he was saying and listening to what other people were doing as questions. And then all of a sudden, you know, there's a couple of mock exams to see whether to gauge whether you're doing okay. And he always, it made me laugh because he said the first mock exam we're going to do is what I consider the easier of the two. There are no easy ones. They're all easy, he said, as far as he's concerned. But the second one is worded in such a way that you could probably give a different answer than the actual proper one. And that's not the fault of the person that's trying to do the exam. That's the problem of the person who wrote the question. But it is a legitimate question. It's just he also didn't agree with the way it was worded. And I scored 26 on the first mock exam, which I was quite happy with, but only 22 on the second. Some of my people that were in the training room were getting much higher scores than that, so I got quite despondent. So you leave that training, like I said last week, and what happened was at the beginning of this week, it was a mix of work, getting some work done, and then finding a time where at the end of the day I could review my training slides, do some more mock exams, find YouTube stuff that might be able to assist with me. And it got to Tuesday, the day before the exam, and I was getting more and more nervous. Oh, really was. I was getting nervous. At the end, when I counted it all up, I'd done the equivalent of 9 mock exams. And there are 40 questions. So do the math, 9 times 40. That's a lot of questions. And the more I did them, the more I was forgetting the earlier easy ones. And it was almost like I was learning the exam. Not the best way. This is not the best way to do course, right? You're supposed to take in the information, understand it, and the questions are last to show you've retained the knowledge. Learning the exam means that you've learnt the answers to questions. You're familiar with some of the writing, wording, without actually knowing what you've learned. I've never been a big fan of learning exams. They get you through difficult situations, but it'll kick you up the arse if you're ever asked to do a talk on something, because it'll still be gobbledygook to you. But anyway, the exam came along. There was a few problems. I couldn't register to do the exam, even though that the exam was booked, because there was a problem with my ID. That was a technical problem their side, so they told me not to worry. Then comes the exam itself, and the exam, being as it's done at home, has to be quite secure. So the person that's monitoring you watches you for the whole hour through camera on your laptop. And, you know, they don't want to see you looking to the right all the time in case you're reading something that you shouldn't do. Very difficult to do that anyway. You know, like having pin-ups all over the walls, because you have to do a sweep with your laptop. You know, pick your laptop up, have the camera pointed at every point in your room to show that nobody could come in, nobody could show a picture through a window, nothing was on a TV screen that you could see, no stuff on the walls, and definitely no help and open books on your desktop. You know, on the, you know, that your laptop is rested on the table. Yeah. We found out that my room had 2 doors, and you need to only have 1 door, but it's the only room I'd got available. I couldn't do it in this room. My God, I've got 5 monitors. You know, I'd have to put sheets of, you know, cloth over every monitor that I've got to prove that I wasn't cheating. So the door that I forgot about was the patio door, and the patio door leads into a garden, and the garden's enclosed. You cannot get into our back garden by going round it. You have to actually come through the house to get into the back garden. So she said, it's okay. You need to swivel your laptop so I can see the corner of the, you know, as much of the door as I can of the patio door as possible, plus the door that you came in on. That's the 2 doors. But you'll also need to close the curtains so that nobody can shine anything through the window. You also need to put a cloth over your TV. So we did that. She was happy. And that took 50 minutes. And by this point, I was stressed. Because it's like, wow, if I was stressed before, I'm stressed even more now. And you do the exam. And the horrible thing about an exam is there's a clock ticking in the top right-hand corner. 60 minutes. And you're going, shit. And then it's saying 59, 58, 57. And the examiner always told you if there's 40 questions, you've got 60 minutes. It's about 1.5 minutes a question. And the first question that you get come up is always sticker shock. It's like, I know this one, but oh my God, there's 4 choices. 2 I can eliminate, 2 I can't. It's one or the other. Which one is it? And your brain is going 1,000,000 miles an hour. You can almost hear cogs. The Jeopardy theme is going in the background, you know, of your head. And basically I marked it. And then I went down to the next one and the next one. And it wasn't until about question 15 that I started to speed up, and I started to become more confident. And I was going, oh, I know that one. Oh, I know that one. Oh, I know that one. And I was going down. And all of a sudden, I got to the end of 40 questions, and I did it in 35 minutes. And I thought, no, I've done it wrong. I've got to have done it wrong. And what you do then is that you go back. And that's the worst thing you can do, really, is going back. Because something else that the trainer said that stuck with me is, if you don't know quite the answer, go with gut feeling. And that's exactly what you did at the very beginning. You went with your gut. So I went back to the first 10 questions, which is where I thought it was really rocky. And I changed 2 of them. I read the question, just in case I was misled with how the question was written. And I didn't think I'd misread it. And I didn't really want to start changing things about. So I changed 2 that I thought, yeah, you really are on the edge on that one. That other one seems a much better answer. And it got to 55 minutes and I hit the stop the exam. Boom. And then this voice comes through and says, can you just fill in this survey while we mark your score? Because they give you the score immediately. And I went, yeah, sure. So how was your trainer? How was setting up? How was booking the exam? Blah, 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 blah. And as soon as I filled it in, a screen flashed up. And it's full of stuff, and it's got your name at the top, and it's got congratulations. And you go, yes! I didn't even look at the figures. Went, yeah, fucking bastard, like this. And then I looked a bit closely, and I scored 80%. 26 is a pass mark, 60-something%. I got 32 right, which means I got 8 wrong. Happy with that. Couldn't care less. Went down to the bottom where they do an analysis. And it tells you where you got 100%, because things are grouped into 5s and 15s and 1s and 2s. Like, do you recognise the practices of ITIL? Do you recognise the theory behind ITIL? Do you recognise the guidelines of ITIL? Do you recognise the service chain of ITIL? They're all grouped, certain questions with each. And the first couple, it said I got 2 out of 4, 1 out of 3. And then all the bottom ones said you got 5 out of 5, 8 out of 8, 15 out of 16. You know what I mean? The big ones down the bottom. And it just cheered me up because it just made me feel relieved, I suppose. But so elevated, like I had a sort of out-of-body experience. Couldn't believe it. Was so looking forward to the next day, going back to work and telling them that I'd passed. They were all gunning for me, lots of, you'll be okay. But the one thing that I did in that morning, which I shouldn't have done, I suppose, was they offered you a resit for the exam if you fail, at a special price of £95. The thing is, it's not refundable. If you passed, they're going to keep the £95. If you fail, you're lucky. You paid £95 off of the proper exam price, which is £340, and that means that you've got another chance. Now, the problem with that I have is that I needed to pay that £95 because I needed a safety net. I wasn't confident enough going into the exam that I would have been so distraught that I failed and I couldn't do the resit. So, okay, they took £95, nothing I could do with it. So I had a meeting with my manager the next day. I have a monthly meeting every month. And I said, can you take down this feedback, please, for the exam? Because I want you and I want the training department to understand what I want to say. And all I want to say is that I think it was wrong that there's no resit. And I think it's terribly wrong that you're given only 5 days to look at the slides, because I believe that information retention is different for certain people. I would probably have found I wouldn't have needed to book that resit if I'd have had 10 days, because I take information in slower. To put the stress of only having so much time to read the coursework, to only have 5 days to revise for an exam, and also to have no safety net of a resit, just is stress. And the course talks about what they call the value stream. And people a year ago that worked for the same company as I do, which is the government, did have a resit and they could book the exam, within a year. Now, I think a year is too long, but even I know that 5 days is too short. And I said, I beg for you to revisit this and do one of two things. One, pay for the resit. But that costs money, so I understand you can't do that. You've got, 12,000 people working for us, or whatever the figure is. It could be 30,000, I think. And to have everybody do the exam and a resit costing 95 quid is a lot of budget. But you could take away that policy of 5 days to book and make it 10 days. How difficult is that? And it's the happy medium, and it costs nothing. And it makes the value chain better for people that are doing the course now compared to people that did it a year ago where they had all that. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. That's my week. I've talked about me at the beginning rather than do the news because I wanted to tell you how happy I was that for anybody that wished me well. Special nods go to Denny, definitely Rock God, Mainmeister, and everybody who left a comment, which you'll probably hear when I get to the discussion part. So we'll do the news now, because we know we date stamped this, and it's date stamped between the war and what's going on in the UK at the moment. Okay, so I'll just have a little bit of a drink. And we'll start with the war. So these are things I wrote down just recently, what's gone on this week. It's labelled up crimes. So the United Nations finds further evidence of Russia war crimes in Ukraine. Report points to willful killing, tortures, rape and other sexual violence, and the deportation of children to the Russian Federation. Russia has repeatedly denied allegations and say the reports are concocted. The UN answered they have evidence beyond hearsay, such as video and paper documents of children deportation papers via the deportation process. What a horrible story. War is never nice, but to know war crimes like this are going on. There was a film, I think, with Michael J. Fox that talks about the crimes of war. Brings back all of that. Things that people get away with. It's the atrocity of war, and some people will say it's expected. Nobody should expect that. Everybody knows my feelings about the war. I want it to end. So we'll end it there with that. Other than to say, we're all behind you, and let's hope it ends soon. Now, in the UK, there's been a lot going on, and I just put things in little bullet points. So I start off with the Israeli conflict continues, with the UK PM Sunak pledging support against terrorism. So he went to a meeting, spoke to the Prime Minister of Israel, and said, we're all behind you. Great. All rallying speeches. Love all that. Not a problem. Then Sunak in the UK was disappointed this week because there was a by-election, and of course the Conservatives lost huge amounts of seats. Labour jubilating over their wins, and Conservatives lose more seats. Politics, as you know, don't give a damn. And then the last one was Storm Babbitt. They name all these storms with letters. It's Babbitt, B-A-B-E-T at the moment. Storm Babbitt continued this weekend with over 500 residents in Retford forced to move due to flooding. Yes, whenever we have storms, there's flooding. Every year, the government pays more and more money for banks to be reinforced. It's always the same towns and villages that are flooded. And each year, all of that work just gets eroded away, and more money is needed to repair the floodgates. Terrible. You'd think we'd be used to rain by now. You'd think our borders would be more reinforced than they are, but it's a little bit like Thames Water and their pipes. I don't think the money goes in. I think they buy cheap goods. They do it on the cheap, but pay premium taxes for us to pay for it. Yeah, that's my opinion. I don't have too many. That's the one I've got. And then two more things, two sad tales of deaths this week. Bobby Charlton was announced to have died yesterday at the age of 86. Tributes have flooded in on England's greatest player. What do I really know? I mean, my dad and I used to talk about Bobby Charlton all the time. But I was probably more interested in his brother Jackie, because I used to get up on Saturday mornings to watch Tiswas and Swap Shop. And they used to have this academy of footballers. You know, they had these youths that they taught how to play football, the offside rule, how to pass, all of that sort of stuff. And it was a television program that was headed up by Jackie Charlton, Bobby Charlton's brother, who was equally as a good footballer. But he also liked fishing, and my dad was a big fisherman. So I sort of like looked at him as a sort of father figure, because as much as I couldn't play football, I was interested in it. And so he became a character that I knew more, but my dad was always in awe of Bobby Charlton. You know, the 1966 World Cup was his era. You know, my dad was 20, 30 years old when that went on. So, of course, it's those lovely years where you know about the game, you're watching it, you're involved in it, you've got your team that you support, all of that sort of stuff for my dad. And with him, I think he took great delight telling me about some of the things that Bobby Charlton did, some of the goals, some of the passing, you know. So, yes, very sad news. And then, of course, Burt Young died, who's an actor who played Polly in the Rocky films. Sort of like the brother-in-law of Rocky, because Rocky married Adrian, you know, and Polly was her brother. But he was a great actor in other things. I was reminded this week that he was in The Sopranos, and it only just came to me, yes, he was. He was the hitman in Sopranos. Forgot all about that. And of course, he's been in other films equally as good as Polly. Polly is the one that I'll remember because Rocky is sort of like a favourite set of films, you know, a series of films that I can sit down and watch. You know, not a franchise of films. That's a little joke for my friend Rock God. A series of films. And we end it there, shall we? Very sad to hear about the deaths. Okay, so what do we do after that? We do the shout-outs. Okay, so quite a few this week. Thank you very much. I was a bit worried last week. Every single one of these has left a comment, even if it's just to say, great video. And I've always said that anybody that leaves a comment gets a shout-out, because think about it. They've taken their time to watch something, and even if they haven't, they've took time to leave a comment. And any of that is something that you can't refund. You can refund money. You can refund friendship in a way with talks and empathy and all sorts of stuff. You can't refund time. You can't go back. You've lost it. You've spent that time. It's gone. So, with that, here's the list of names, and they're not names of shame. They're names of jubilation. We've got Paul Patrick, Gaming Since the 70s, Denny, Seb's Place, Playtendo Guy, David's Retro Games Play Badly, Down the Rabbit Hole, LFC Gamer and Vlogs, Colin Jones aka Ponder, Jambon, Martroid, Wee Bob Art, Doug Scullery. And then I did another video this week, and I found I had time to do it just. And it's got the most watches I've ever had. Thank you very much for those people. It was a statue unboxing of a game. People who left their names there that aren't already at the top were Cy Robson, Prehistoric Blob. Have I read that right? Prehistoric Blob. Yeah, Prehistoric Blob. Matt Medros and Sandy Ollier. Thank you so much for watching that video. I will get round to doing the comments. I hope the reading of your name is good enough for now. I will read those. I've read a couple. One turned around and said it's a great statue, but the game is a bit disappointing. What I will say about the game at this particular point is, and I haven't played it, I've put the code in and I need to get round to it, is you don't mend a wheel that's not broken. And you do need to move forward with something by offering something new. It is the same button mashing, fighting, all of that, and I get all of that. But it is more than that. I think you have to play it and you have to give it time and see what those new things are. I haven't watched any video. I've watched, well, saying that, I haven't watched a video of the game, spoiler, people playing games and that. I've watched 2 technical videos to see the differences between the old Spider-Man game and the new one, to see what new features that they've put into the engine. Because I'm always interested in the technical aspect of anything. Don't get me wrong. So, with that, thank you so much for all your comments, and we will get to the questions. My God, if there's that many that have left a comment, I'm sure there's a couple of questions in here. Let's see if we can get through them. Okay, no particular order. The first one at the top is Doug Scullery. Thank you very much, Doug. Hi, Delboy. Hope you are keeping well, fella. Here's a topic. Oh, right. Okay, so it's not going to be a question. It's a topic. Here's a topic for your Sunday blog. Please educate me. Oh, I'm a teacher now. Jesus. I can kind of wrap my head around how an emulator like MAME can mimic other systems, i.e. it does it in software. But how on earth does a thing like the Mister work? It does the mimicry in hardware? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Please explain. You can use as much technical language as needed. Well, thank you for that, but I've got no prep. Okay. How can I put it into layman's terms? Okay. Yes, you're quite right. There are 2 distinct levels, hardware and software. Okay. Now, emulation first. So you've got this hardware, graphic cards, processor, memory, and everything. Then you've got an operating system that goes on top of that. And there's a piece of software. And then you've got an emulator. That's another piece of software that has to talk to Windows, that also has to talk to the hardware. Now you've got a chain of 3. Okay? The emulator has to, in software, mimic hardware. So what it does it by code. So it's all software. So you've got the CPU of a computer, say, in software, buried inside an emulator, which is software, which talks to Windows, which is in software, which then talks to the hardware, which is in your PC, and then outputs that to a screen with your controller. So you're going to get a certain amount of lag dependent on a number of factors. Some of that is going to be your PC setup and what you've got installed and what's running in the background, plus how HDMI or how those cables are hooked up to your monitor. That is why emulation is a little bit easier to do, okay, but hard because you want to have, the aim of an emulator is to be as accurate as possible to the original hardware. And you've got too many things within things within things within things before you get to the very bottom layer, the hardware. Okay, that's emulation in a very roundabout way, and I know I could go technical, but I like to do this in a way that everybody is not bored shitless. The Mister, okay, the Mister is a phenomenal advancement on this, on how things work. Okay, basically it's a little mini PC, but it has a special chip and a lot of bells and whistles inside it, which I won't go into, but it's got a chip called FPGA. Now, I don't know if you've heard of the word EEPROM. FPGA is not an EEPROM, but it's sort of similar. It is a chip designed totally to emulate the hardware of something else. And it does it by loading in something called a core. So it's basically a piece of software. But when this software is put into the FPGA, that chip, it's a self-contained piece of code at hardware level. Because it's like you've poured the data into that chip and it's now separate. So there is no now software needed. You've loaded it in and it's now in a chip at chip level, so hardware level. Remember I was talking about those levels? So now when you try to load a game in, it's loading it in at the hardware level, not at the software level. So the software goes into that hardware, the hardware goes out to your screen, and bang, you're there. So you've broken many, many chains. There's no Windows, there's no emulator with software to run that emulator with the game. Another piece of software that talks to the emulator, that then talks to the operating system, that then talks to the hardware. That one step that took it out eliminated a lot of what an emulator has to do. And therefore, accuracy is better, speed is better because of the way it talks. Does that help you? Does that give you an insight a little bit? There are many, many YouTube channels out there that will probably explain it a lot better. I did it in a layman's term. I know it inside and out, sort of, in my head, and think to myself, I'm 90% sure what I know of it how it works. I know, okay? But I'm sure people are screaming up in their heads going, you got that wrong, or whatever. I did it in a layman's term in a way that people can understand it, not how it actually physically does it, you know? So I hope that gives you the answer. Thank you so much for that question. It was a topic that was fun to talk about. The Mister is phenomenal. There's a part of my Mister on the corner here. That's the MIDI output for my Mister. My Mister is just down here attached up, so I won't sort of disturb it. But if you've got the money, if you're that into emulation, if you're running out of space by having a lot of your hardware and you need to conserve space but have the next best accurate thing, the Mister's the way to go. Don't get me wrong. Wonderful piece of kit. Okay, so we'll salute to you, Doug. Thank you so much. And we will move to Wee Bob Art. Wee Bob Art. Working on my newest drawing while listening along. Managed it in one sitting this week, but it was a wee bit shorter. Yeah, wasn't it shorter? This one's not. I'm pretty sure of it. We're at 40 minutes now. Anyway, I still wish you all the best with your test, and all that you do is the best that you can. I'm heading offline, maybe for a week or two, but might be able to catch next week's blog. We shall see. Oh, don't worry about that, matey. It's lovely that you support me. Thank you so much for that. We shall see. Hope the live stream goes well. We'll leave a question anyway and catch up when I get back to normality. So here's the question. So I've tried a few times to draw Spider-Man, but as I am still learning anatomy, I struggle, whereas drawing faces is something I've learned well. I also prefer to draw female characters, partly as the majority of the female sort, and I love GTA game art. What is your favourite portrait drawing that was done for Spider-Man? And then I might have a chance of recreating or making my own version of said portrait. Anyway, see you again soonish. What a nice one. I think the best thing I could do for you, wee Bob, here is probably send you a couple of pictures. My favourite artist is John Romita. Spider-Man's one of those characters that you really do need to study anatomy to probably draw well, because Spider-Man is supposed to be so agile that he can contort his body into all sorts of different shapes, but remain within the constraint of what a human is, 2 arms, 2 legs, all that sort of stuff. So he can put himself into weird angles that would be very difficult to draw if you can't draw anatomy. He can fold himself up virtually like into a ball. He can hang upside down, hang by one hand. He can hang by one finger. He could be upside down, looking diagonally down. You could look at him from behind him, looking down. You could look from his point of view, looking up. The anatomy is going to be then key. And I don't relish anybody that has to draw him and do all those webs for every single panel each week when they're drawing a Spider-Man comic. So the best thing I'll do is I'll send some anatomy, pictures of my favourite character drawn by my favourite artist, and hopefully that'll help. I myself, who've tried to do drawing, have tried to take in everything that the masters that are out there have tried to say to me. Some of those are how you break things down into circles and blocks. So you can make your hand up and you can say, that's a block, that's a block, that's a circle, that's a block, 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 that's a block. And then you draw around those blocks. And then where the blocks are, you do the joins, that we all have. And you can then move those blocks at different angles. So like that, like that, like that. So basically, it's made up of blocks and square and circles and ovals. And then you learn the rest of the anatomy, like the abs on your stomach and things like that, because those shift round based on how you twist your body and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's tricky. Thank you so much for that question. We move on. Thank you. Salute to you, sir. We get to gaming since the 70s. My mate Steve, you shitty little... Ro, brilliant, my mate. I'm very close to Steve. And let's see what he's put. Hi, Del. Great blog, mate. And I've had my fingers crossed for days for hoping you well with your exam. I hope I can uncross them now. Question mark. Oh, shit. Should have come back to you earlier, shouldn't I? Bloody hell. How have you eaten your dinner with your crossed fingers? Yeah. I think your mum and my mum seem to be having the same kind of issues. I hope your mum is well and it's been a good week for her. To be quite honest, matey, no, it hasn't. I saw a glimmer when she heard that I'd passed my exam. She was so happy. You could see the smile on her face. She was back to her normal because she said, great, now that you've passed that, can you make me a cup of tea? That was the first thing she said. For which I made her a cup of tea, obviously. And I bought her a bottle of wine that night and, spent some time. That was lovely. But then things returned to normal. And it's looking out the window, watching people go by, sleeping during the day, loneliness because I'm working. Yeah. And she's had a couple of flu and cold symptoms, giddiness. Yeah, it's been tricky for me, matey. I don't expect it to get easier. I don't expect it to get better. I just have to remain strong. And sometimes I have lapses. I'm human. Guys, if you ever catch me in a bad light, don't think badly of me. I'm struggling. And don't want to cry. Yeah, I don't like talking about it too much, but I feel like I'm failing. And I concentrate then on others an awful lot. This isn't bad-mouthing anybody. I'll concentrate on the problems that Rock God's got. I'll concentrate on the problems that Mainmeister's got. I'll concentrate on other problems to take my problems away. It doesn't help, because what happens is you're really like an ostrich. You're burying your head in the sand. As soon as you've sorted out their problems, yours are still there. It's like not opening an electricity bill because you think to yourself, if I don't open it, it's not real. It's still real. Believe me. And it kicks you up the arse. So, yeah. We'll move on from that. Not a great subject. On Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, it's a timeless classic in my opinion. It never gets old. Just sounds amazing and wonderful each time I listen to it. Isn't it just? And I listened to it even this week because Forever Autumn is obviously one of those tracks that's great, and it reminds me of the leaves that are down on the ground at the moment. it's a song that I play always at least once during the autumn period. You carry on. Before I throw questions at you, I'd like to say thank you. Oh, okay. You've always been very kind to me and very supportive of me and my channel. That means a lot. So thank you so much. Oh my God, man. I suppose I am supportive, but I'll tell you this. If there's something I don't like, I tell people. If there's something that I like, I support it and I continue to watch it. And anything that I've mentioned in what I've watched of you guys, that's that section. I've loved every second, unless I've said there's something about it I don't like. And that means I'll support you and while you continue to make great content. There will always be weeks where there'll be a subject that I'm not interested in. I look at that as being something to learn. I throw away I'm not interested away out of my brain. I open my mind and say, give it a chance. Said this to Rock God the other day. Turned around and said, he's opened my mind to Iron Maiden. Right? I bought 2 weeks ago, no word of a lie, a box set of Iron Maiden's albums. I think it was about, I don't know, was there 15 or so albums in this? And I'm going to listen to it because I'm going to listen to it over Christmas when I've got a lot more time. And I've written it just to prove a point. He told me a couple of tracks that I need to listen to, and I wrote them down. He said, when you get to the albums, listen to Running Free and Journeyman. I think you'll enjoy those. Now that intrigues me because he knows very little about me other than our chats, and he believes that those are two tracks that I'll get great enjoyment of. And that shows to me a person that is open to me, interested in me, wants to know that I'm going to enjoy myself. Because if I'm not a heavy metal fan, and I'm not, and I'm going to be listening to all these albums, he wants to know that there are a couple there that possibly you will, because they'll match something that I've explained to him that I like in music. You see what I mean? That's a person that's listened, not heard. Heard is just basically blah 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 blah. You know, I can see your lips move and you know, you're talking to me. Listening is with your brain. You took it in, you digested it, and got an opinion from it. So I've always had that, and I've always appreciated all my friends that have listened to me, because I can tell you now, I listen to you guys. Never diminish anything that anybody says. Okay? So getting back, that's the nicest thing that I think has anybody's ever written in all of the blogs. Actually, it's really quite moved me a little bit. So you've asked some questions. I'll bet you any money that I've cocked this all up now. The first, what's your favourite video game where your main weapon is a bow? Oh my God. I've got to think now, you see. There's a bow in Tomb Raider, isn't there? Yeah, that's good. There's that one about monsters. Can't remember what it's called. I don't think I'll find it in time. Horizon. That's it. Horizon Zero Dawn. That's got a bow in it. Love that game for the couple of hours that I sort of put it in, and then got caught with COVID, you know, with me having to be a key worker. But then again, real-time strategy have got little soldiers and little creatures that you control that also have bows, because you play the game through the ages of our lives, and they go back to the Stone Age all the way up to now. And the Aztecs and all of that used bows, and you could see the bows firing. And I remember the bows being fired from Stronghold. Do you remember Stronghold, where you build a castle and you put bowmen on at the top of the castle, firing down at the people trying to storm the castle. That's great. Love that. Those are the ones that come to mind. Are they good enough for you? I hope so. I could probably think of more, but my God, I've got to move on with all of these names. Let's see what you've done next. Because you said question 1, so I'm sure there's a question 2. Now 2 questions for you. And now the second. Here we go. Now, you may disagree, but that's fine. I have no problem. We all have our own opinions, right? But for me, CGI has ruined films. I used to get so excited by special effects in films, and I'd be utterly wowed and talk about them for days. But since CGI has took over, I simply don't give a damn, and I even avoid films that are CGI heavy. What's your opinion on it? ? Take care, my friend, and love to your mum. Thank you. I'll tell her. I'm probably not as strict as you, Steve, but I'm of a similar vein. The magic of movies. When I saw Star Wars, when I saw Meteor, when I saw, any science fiction thing, when I saw horror films with gore, you could see they were physical effects. You could see that they tried to do it as realistically as possible. And in some ways, they blew your mind. Making a man fly, Superman, all of that comes to mind, And if you look at Blade Runner, which is, a 1980s film, that also is optical effects and real models. And it looks breathtaking. You know me, I'm a very visual guy. I like my visuals. And then you get to just before Jurassic Park, CGI taking over. I think it was at the point Toy Story was being made, to be quite honest, where they were doing the first digital cartoon. Because once you learned that you could ray trace things and you could make things look realistic and have things like reflection in mirrors done by computer, electronics and software, you start to realize that's a much cheaper way of doing it. There's no material to destroy at the end, and you can save the data and use it again. That seems to be what's exploded CGI. Now, I can't badmouth it too much because for years and years and years, I waited for a Spider-Man film. And if you ever watch the Spider-Man film, which is really just a TV series spliced together, the Spider-Man film that came out in 1977, you'll know what I'm talking about, because you try doing physical effects like spinning a web, swinging through the middle of New York, climbing a building. The physical effects can be partially done, but you need the special effects to make it happen, because there's bits of it that you just cannot do unless there really is a radioactive spider out there that could bite me and turn me into Spider-Man. So I can't badmouth it too much, but if there was a choice, do you want real-time effects or do you want CGI? I'll go with real-time every time. I grew up around Space 1999 and those Eagles. I grew up around UFO and the UFO interceptors. It's just one of those things, where it's almost like it was real, even though you could see it was made by Airfix. Do you know what I mean? So CGI seems to be lazy, but it's not. There's a lot of people that work on that. I mean, if you can't draw, it's hard. And you're talking about geometry, splicing it together with real human beings and real sets. Okay, there's a lot of drawn sets, but drawn sets have been there for donkey's years. I mean, you seriously can't think that all of those scenes in I don't know, the Ten Commandments didn't use some type of glass with a painting of mountainsides, and they filmed in a quarry and basically spliced the two images together, because that's what they did to make it look like you're on a barren planet or you're up in the middle of up at the top of a mountain or something, you know. So but I count that as physical effect, see, not drawn, you know, on a cell. So I'm mixed with that, matey. I hope I've given you an opinion in the fact that CGI to me is something that should be used as a tool sparingly where something is impossible to do in this physical manner. How's that as a mission statement for Hollywood? You know, stop cheating. Stop using it because you can. Do it because you need to or have to. And use proper methods, you know? And I suppose I sound like an old fuddy-duddy. I do apologise. Salute to you, sir, with my last salute to you. And moving on. We get to Paul Patrick. Good luck on your exam, Del. See, everybody wishing me good luck. Thank you. I'm sure all of this is what got me through it. Really do. Have you had the chance to play much of Spider-Man 2 on the PS5 yet? It looks visually stunning from watching the DF review. I haven't watched the DF review, and it is loaded. It's downloaded. I hope to go on it this afternoon. What's your thoughts on the upcoming analog 3D FPGA console? Oh, who's making that? It should be good. But FPGA is it's, as I mentioned it before, emulates hardware. So are they trying to make the FPGA a graphic chip? Or are they trying to emulate a console so that it can do the 3D better? Interesting. I've heard of the Mega FPGA. I've talked to Colin about that. That's interesting. We'll see how that one goes. But let's continue reading. It's going to be an FPGA. He's going to explain it now. It's going to be an FPGA recreation of the N64, which outputs in 4K. The FPGA chip will be more powerful than the Mister, which could open up exciting possibilities if it gets hacked once launched. Right. First of all, the Nintendo 64 graphic chip was one that I'm not a big fan of. It was developed by Nintendo and Silicon Dreams, if I remember rightly, or Silicon Creations. Big powerhouse graphic company that did stuff for media. But its architecture was so of its time, ahead of its time, really, in a little bit. But then so backwards in its time because of the architecture that it was around it. In other words, it had memory bus issue problems, speed issues, all sorts of stuff, and it was incredibly hard to develop for. If they're just recreating that chip but then improving upon it, that's great because it was ahead of its time. But we've had better chips since then, so I'm not sure what the deal is with that. I know that the Mister is doing the Nintendo 64 core at the moment. And I believe they're making very, very good progress. The new Mega FPGA that I've been reading about will probably be slightly better because it's obviously a newer FPGA chip, more transistors. Some of the not bugs, but hindrances of the Mister, like bus speeds and things like that, will obviously be renewed and newer and faster. So it will talk quicker. So from that point of view, if the Mister has a problem with total accuracy because of its hindrances it's got currently, the Mega FPGA will alleviate some of that. And I take it this new FPGA will be developed with a singular core focus of Nintendo 64, which therefore should mean it will be powerful. because they've got a benchmark to go against, haven't they? That's my opinion. I hope that's okay with you. That's an interesting question. Thank you so much. Made me think. Bloody hell, on a Sunday. Ooh, dangerous. Drinky poos. We get to, oh my God, my mate Denny. And here we go. Essay. Get ready. I love Denny. He's brilliant. Hiya, mate. Great to talk with you the other day just before I headed off to work. Lifted my spirits no end. It was also great to hear you had passed your course. I could hear the change in your voice. It must be like a mountain off your shoulders. Really pleased for you, Del. Yeah, thank you so much. And that call really did help. His call along with Rock Gods probably did more good than ever. And if I cheered you up with my waffle at the end, God, I'm so pleased with that. I always think I end on a downer. Terrible, that, isn't it? As I said last week, there are certain areas of the globe that peace will never be allowed to take hold. It seems the war machine has to carry on for certain people. Read into that as you will. Good news about Game Base 64, it seems. Issues have been sorted, so let's hope for a new release soon. Based on your notes, I believe that's actually happened already. I believe our good friend and mutual friend Ox has actually said that the version 19 of Game Base is out for the 64 with extra 1,000 titles added. Brilliant. Well, you was right. I've bought all 3 box sets of Wurzel. It's one release I will always get, no matter what. The soundtrack in the Combined Harvest release is something I can't miss. Yes, I deliberated. I said, I bet you there's one person I know that's going to not only have the first one because he's bought it like me, he'll buy the second one and he'll buy the whole collection. And what have I done? What's he done? Done that, exactly. I'm so glad I knew that that was going to happen. Glad you finally got the Martian Chronicles. I would have got an extra copy too, but the price was too much to justify it. Same with the forthcoming On the Buses films from Via Vision. As much as I want it, the prices are astronomical. Postage is the issue, costing as much or more than what you're buying. Yes, you mentioned it to me the other day, and I was going to mention that to my friend Rock God, that On the Buses is being released by Via Vision. I forgot that you mentioned that. Hopefully people now know, take a note of that. If you're interested in On the Buses, the films, the Hammer ones in particular, they're being released by Via Vision in Blu-ray, I believe. All redone, remastered with new documentaries. And of course, as you know, we've lost a few more people from On the Buses since those were being cleaned up and done. So that will be brilliant, and I need to write that down, and I will after I get through this, because I'm interested in that. Thanks for answering my question. Films I'd go with this Halloween are Salem's Lot, The Omen, and Trick or Treat. Games. And Trick or Treat. Games has to be Cauldron, Nosferatu, and Castle of Terror on the 64. Now, if you're interested in the games bit there, Castle of Terror is not an arcade game. It's an adventure. It's one of those graphic adventures that drew on the screen, but it was super eerie because it had music in the background while you were playing your text adventure. And that was a dangerous thing to do back in the day, if you think about it. If you've got a tune that sounds awful, you ruin the atmosphere. But oh my God, did they knock it out the ballpark with Castle of Terror? Brilliant game. One I go back to. One of my most favourite adventures is Castle of Terror. When it comes to the films, totally agree. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to Halloween in the films. I just noticed that when people are doing their own lists, they're going less and less to the Universal monsters and watching more of the films after The Exorcist came out. So films from 1973 and onwards seem to be the norm, and anything before 1973 gets lost, not interested, not bothered, not watched. And I find that a great shame, because I had great enjoyment at Halloween sitting down with my mum and dad watching a Hammer horror film, like Prince of Darkness or Frankenstein Created Woman and all of that. And especially intrigued by Dracula and Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein from the Universal movies in the 30s. It's what got me into horror. So never lose your roots, is what I say to that. I've never watched Frasier, seen clips, and it's really not my thing. US comedy is very patchy. With me, though, I do like Married with Children. Yeah, it's weird you should mention that, because Married with Children, I would have said, is more coarse than Frasier. Frasier is more that sophisticated thing. I've watched a couple of the new episodes of the series. Most people are hating it, I think, now. I'm giving it a chance. I could see what they've tried to do. It's almost like it could be season 12 of Frasier, because it ended at 11. Because the way that they're doing it is not renewed. It's not a newer, fresher approach. It's more the heartbeat of the show is virtually the same, but with new characters. Now, the show will live and die off of these new characters, and I think that's the problem at the moment. We're not giving a chance to Nicholas Lyndhurst and the other characters that are around, because we're missing people like Daphne and Niles and obviously Marty, Frasier's dad, because they're not in it. Wrong thing to do. You've got to give things a chance. New people shouldn't be tossed to one side because they're not the characters that we grew up and watched. So I'm giving it a chance. That's my answer to that. Okay, question for this week. It's well known that while shooting The Omen, Twilight Zone and Poltergeist films, deaths actually occurred to the crew of or stars of the film in different ways. Are you a believer that the content of the films had some sort of supernatural event tied to it, or do you think it's total coincidence? Oh my God! Am I somebody who believes in the supernatural? Yes and no. Do I believe karma can have an effect? Yeah, I think there's a balance. I agree with there is a balance in the universe. Yeah, believe in that. Do I think that because something is named The Exorcist, that bad things were going to happen on set? No. Do I believe that accidents were bound sure to happen because of the nature of the story? Yes and no. I know what you're talking about the deaths in the Twilight Zone, which was totally unfortunate. If you count it in order, it's the second story, but it's actually the first, because the first story is the hitchhiker story at the beginning that also dovetails at the end. But it's the first complete story of the stories in the Twilight Zone, and it's about a man that keeps flitting through time, ending up in bodies of people that are of colour or race, and he's a bigot. And there was a scene where a helicopter landed, and unfortunately the actors that were in the scene ran towards the helicopter, and their heads were chopped off by the propeller blades. It was an awful accident, well documented, and it involved a Crown Court case. Do I believe that the film was doomed to have something like that in it? No. That's more down to budgets, health and safety, that sort of thing. Do I think a film is likely to spur supernatural things? Probably, like paranormal, I would say, possibly. I haven't really watched enough of those types of films to say anything. I don't think Poltergeist forced itself to have any of the problems it had on set, based on the fact it was about a story of building on top of Indian burial grounds and the spirits of the dead. That's an interesting one, you know. My God, I'm going round the houses a little bit. I'm going to say yes and no, because I do believe if you choose a house that's haunted and you decide to film there, expect a supernatural reaction. How's that for an answer? Um, but not because a title or because of a book that's written is the wrath of God coming down on us, or evil seeping through the ground to get us because we've written a zombie film. No, I don't believe that. Thanks as always, matey. Send my best to your mother. Of course I will. We move on. Seb's Place. Good luck with the exam, mate. I had an AWS one a year or so ago, which was the same setup. They kept getting annoyed with me as I was reading the question out loud and covering my face with my hands. I got a warning, but got through it. Good luck, matey. Thank you so much, Seb, and I'm sure subliminally I was reading those words at the time that my exam was going on, and you got me through it. I really do believe in that. So thank you so much, and I'm going to record something for you later on and send it to you. It'll be in the next day or so. Playtendo guy, my mate Pete. Another brilliant video, Del Boy. Hope you're okay, mate. Oh, of course. Thank you so much, Pete. I hope you're well as well. You didn't do a talk this week, and I've only seen a couple of your videos where you've done a great video on imprint and the videos that are coming out from there. So good luck with that, matey, and I look forward to more talks. Now, I'm just going to take a break for a moment. Not because I feel anything different, but I just want to check lip sync and so forth. So I'll be back in a moment. So I've just basically checked the lip sync now, and everything seems to be okay. I haven't had a break at all. Literally all I did was just check the camera and unpaused. So we'll move on, and we get to David's retro games played badly. Okay, keeping me company on a long cold night shift, mate. The world's getting grimmer and grimmer. You wouldn't have thought we would have. You would have thought we'd have learnt by now. I like the idea of the What If series. Sounds interesting. That was that thing last week where I showed you the comic books. You got a bargain on Fright Night, personal favourite. Thank you, mate. I think I'm going to leave Frasier in the past. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but I just don't think it needs a sequel. Yeah, I think they must have thought long and hard about that, because it's like Fawlty Towers, where they said they'll never make another Fawlty Towers because they want it to end on a high and be remembered as a gold coin in a vat of copper. Do you know what I mean? It shines. And good luck to them is all I can say at the moment. You have a choice of not to watch it, and so it will always stay in your mind as the perfect series, won't it, if that's how you look at it. Generally, I didn't know that The Hills of Eyes was a remake. Every day's a school day, isn't it just? I'm learning all the time. I'm learning so much from my friends on the movie side, like from Jake and Ryan and Scott, and definitely Rock God, and a number of others, Jay-Z even. They've all given me thoughts on films I haven't seen, or I've chucked to one side as not watching them because they're not my sort of thing. And you should always have an open mind. Enjoyed the trailers, mate. Take care. Oh, my pleasure, matey. Thank you so much. And I hope this blog is keeping you entertained at work again this week. Down the rabbit hole. Oh, my friend. Down the rabbit hole. Once again, thank you, Del and wee Bob, for the kind words on my Blade Runner video. I'm glad all that editing was worth the hassle. Funny, at the beginning of your blog, Del, you kept talking about your foundation course, and all I could think of was my new Apple TV show based on Isaac Asimov's classic books. Have you seen the show yet? Did you read any of the books? I read the books. Yes, Isaac Asimov books. I haven't got Apple TV, but I can obviously get the series Other Methods, and I do need to get caught up with a lot of things. In fact, I haven't even watched Loki, which has started streaming yet, and there's a whole Star Wars 10-episode thing that came out a month previous that I haven't even started either. So I've got to get caught up. Good observations with Only Fools and Horses, that they should have finished the show when the characters became millionaires. Here in North America, we had something very similar when the writers decided Roseanne should win the lottery, and the quality of the show went right down the drain at that point. I wonder if both plots happened around the same time. Roseanne, mid-80s. Only Fools and Horses, 1981 to 1992, 3? Could be. You're not far wrong. Here's something I was thinking about recently, Del. A lot of Star Wars fans argue about all the changes that George Lucas made to the original trilogy and refusing to release the original theatrical cuts of any of them. Isn't it odd Star Trek fans don't seem to be angry with all the changes made to the motion picture? It could be argued the directors of both films wanted to improve things, and we ended up with nicer special effects in the old movie. But why aren't Star Trek fans as angry about it all? I researched online whether or not one can even be the original theatrical cut of the motion picture anywhere, and apparently the new Ultra HD Director's Edition, The Complete Adventures, has the original cut. Is that the special boxed set you have, Del? Does it really show the original 1979 version, warts and all? Keep up the good work. Interesting. I mean, everybody knows that you got the Star Wars fan base and the Star Trek fan base. I don't know why they argue amongst each other. It's a little bit like the old days with computers. I've got a Commodore 64, you've got a Spectrum, you've got a bleepy squeaker, you've got a blocky, graphy piece of shit. And all of that at school. But the one thing we know about the Star Trek The Motion Picture is that even Bob Wise, the director, said it was unfinished. It was rushed, brought out, not edited well, special effects not finished, etc., etc. Now, for years and years and years, we waited for somebody to do a Star Wars on it, where George Lucas had gone back and finished the effects. They actually did that with the motion picture, but they did it when there was no such thing as Blu-ray. And so all of the software recreation that finished off the special effects were in such a low resolution that you couldn't have it in Blu-ray, which is why for so long Star Trek fans only had a theatrical cut, and the theatrical cut was not finished. From that point of view, when Paramount decided to open a new channel called Paramount Plus, they used the money of the subscription for that, plus the sale of the Blu-rays upscaled to 4K, to fund finishing that film. And you're quite right, the 1979 theatrical edition is in that box set. I think I can easily go and get it, actually. So it is right here. That's the box set, and it is a lovely, glossy piece of art with the back showing what you get. And it reads on the back that you get Yeah, it says you get Star Trek the Motion Picture Director's Edition, Star Trek the Motion Picture Remastered Theatrical and Special Longer Version, Star Trek the Motion Picture Theatrical Remastered. So you do get the theatrical cut. Remastered just basically means it's been cleaned up and moved to 4K. So it is the theatrical cut. So yes, you do. Hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for that. And like I said, I'm just going to check the camera again because I had to walk away and it's having all sorts of technical problems today. So just bear with me again. And we're back. And like I say, I'll try and sort out what's going on there. It might be a little bit to do with the fact that I haven't checked space on my drive for where it streams to for recording this. I might be running a bit low. So we move to NFC Gamer and Vlogs. Greetings once again, Dell, and I wish you good luck with the exam. Thank you so much. I'm also against HTML in emails, probably for the same scenario many of us have faced, me including, and that is being a victim of being hacked. Although this happened sometime in my teen years, I still can't help but blame myself for falling for something that seems too good to be true. So glad hindsight exists and lessons have been learned. Text is the way to go, in all honesty. Couldn't agree more. Pretty much a roundup of what I said. Questions for the next blog. Which of these TV cars do you prefer the look of? Kit from Knight Rider, which is a Pontiac Trans Am, or the white Ferrari Testarossa in Miami Vice? Kit every time. Never was a big Ferrari Testarossa fan. I do like Ferraris. I like the Ferrari used in Magnum. Slightly different model. Because I don't think they did I think that was designed specifically for Magnum because I don't think they did a convertible. That car was always a hard top, but they did it specifically for that show. Kit, it's just got those streamlines. It's got that old look, but looks new. What I mean by that is if you look at cars before the Ford Sierra came out in this country, they were all unique, different design shapes. And everything from the Sierra onwards seems to be the same type of shape, rounded edges. I mentioned that before. So I think I'd go all the time with Kit for that one, matey. I don't know what your opinion is, but yeah, I'm going to go with Kit. What is your favourite dad joke? If so, would love to hear it, no matter how cheesy it may be. I always carry a spare sock with me when I play golf, just in case I get a hole in one. That's awful. I feel sorry for the calendar because I think its days are numbered. Oh my God. I'm going to stop there. Those came to mind. I'm a big Vine fan. He's king of the one-liners. I think they probably came from him. Number 3, did you ever get into the Britpop hype during the mid-90s, or did you not care for it much? Don't know what you mean by hype. The scene, the Britpop scene, I did get into. Like everybody, you couldn't avoid it. You put the radio on and there was Oasis and Blur and Stereophonics and all of that sort of stuff. Each of those bands had a track that I liked. I felt sorry probably for the lower acts because they had some great tracks, but they were more interested in playing Oasis's Don't Look Back in Anger or Blur 2, the track Blur 2 or House in the Country or whatever, that sort of thing. Compared to A Design for Life and things like that. So, yeah, I bought a number of albums. Do you remember that they brought out all of those Britpop albums, that were just fully that type of music? Forgot what they're called now, but I've got them. I've got albums and double albums and double albums of them over there. So thank you very much. I hope that answers it. I definitely was into the scene. I went to a number of concerts around that scene, and I'm glad we moved on from it. But there are times where I do slip back and listen to that stuff and have a smile on my face. Even though I was much older, you see, you got to look at the age on this. When Britpop was around, I'm sure you're younger than me. You were in your teens to 20s, I should think. Me, I was in my. Let's have a look. Have a think. Yeah, I was getting close to nearly 40. Yeah, late 30s, mid 30s to early 40s. Yeah, different time, different perspective as you mature with your music as well. Thank you so much for that one, Colin Jones. Good luck on the exam. Although every little helps, North Korea is hardly big on resources, and this is more propaganda than real help, I'd presume. Israel-Palestine is complex. I do not and cannot condone the attacks, but Israel isn't exactly the innocent party here. Good answer on the email. I'm very against HTML in emails. Remember the monstrosity that was Incredimail. Yeah, a one-word email which could be hundreds of kilobytes and took ages on dial-up connections. The security implications are also unavoidable, so text all the way for me. Couldn't agree more. And yes, I do remember that because I was in the IT industry and at work when all that was going on. You can play Computer Space. It's a core on the Mister. Yes, I know you can. I know you can play it under emulation. I know you can actually get an oscilloscope and set something up so that you can play it. What I was trying to get at was I haven't got round to doing that yet, and I should do. Question for the next blog. What were your standout made-for-children TV series of your childhood? I've probably asked that before in some form, but you did say repeats are okay. Yes, of course they are. Standouts, so many, matey. Isn't it great to think back to your childhood? And, I looked forward to things like clapperboard, screen test, run around, Cheggers Plays Pop, Finger Bobs, Bagpuss, The Clangers, Trumpton, Chigley, all of those. Mr. Ben, Captain Pugwash. Oh, one just came to mind. Dr. Snuggles. Remember that? Dr. Snuggles? Vicky the Viking? Some obscure ones there, not rarely mentioned. Dr. Snuggles. Yeah, he was an inventor. Big fat bloke. I liked Magpie. How? Oh. God. But Jerry Anderson is a perfect example of a person that didn't have his show in the children's section and had his own section in the ITV network broadcast schedule for Captain Scarlet, Joe 90, Thunderbirds, Fireball XL5, etc., etc. Standouts for me will be the Jerry Anderson ones. Shows like Children of the Stones, Into the Labyrinth, Nightmare, Stig of the Dump, will always have fond memories of. But the general stuff, Bagpuss, Captain Pugwash, Will o' the Wisp, Finger Bobs, Play Away, Play School, they'll always be with me. And I think it's because of the age I was when I was watching them. I was watching them at play school. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much for that happy memory. Cheered me up no end. Thank you so much, Colin. Love repeats. Great. In fact, you can repeat all of those. Turn that other shit off that we've got from the BBC. Jam Bomb. Hi, Del. Thanks for another great vlog. I feel like I haven't played enough with my mister. Sounds like a euphemism. You mentioned CD players and DACs, etc. I've always suspected that when you get to really high-end hi-fi equipment, there's an element of Emperor's New Clothes, while a half-decent mid-range DAC can give you a big jump in terms of audio compared to a very basic and cheap one. I've always been suspicious of ones that cost several £100 or more, though. I'm probably just an uneducated Philistine. No, you're not. Very interesting subject. DAC, digital analog converter. Yes, not every piece of equipment is built equally. And a lot of development goes into these things, and when you consider digital recordings, they get manipulated by that DAC. So yes, you're quite right. This is why some people say the purest method is vinyl. But when you consider that that is a needle going through an arm that then goes through another system that amplifies, you then got still an issue, because the vinyl is probably a digital recording and has been since around about 1984 for the majority. I think that's when they started digital tape cuttings onto vinyl, which means it's digital. See what I mean? See where I'm coming from? I like the idea of what if comics that you mentioned. What if turned out Spider-Man's really enjoyed eating flies? I bet that's been done. I have a film-related question, if you don't mind. Who is your favourite female film director? And are there any lesser-known female directors who you think should get more recognition? I particularly enjoy the films of Kelly Reichardt. Oh, yes. Meek's Cut Off and First Cow are classics. But in my humble opinion, but not everyone has heard of them. Meek's Cut Off, I've heard of. Thanks anyhow, and hope your exam goes well. Will keep my fingers crossed for you, mate. Haven't really thought about it, because I've never really thought about it's a man's world for film, making films, because there are so many women directors now. But even back then, there were women producers, women makeup artists, women costume designers. I always thought it was a happy place, and I now realise it wasn't. The first, I think, female, or one that I recognised as a female director that I really enjoyed as a film, was done by someone called Penny Marshall. And she did a baseball film. The title eludes me at the moment. It had Tom Hanks in it and Madonna. Why can't I think of the title of that now? Well known. And I thought that was a phenomenal film. It didn't look to me like it was gender directed to me. It was brilliant. What's it called? There's even a TV show with the same name with that Corden bloke in it. Oh, God. It'll come to me. I'm going to feel really, really stupid now because I can't think of the title of it. But yeah, Penny Marshall comes to mind. And she was an actress in Laverne and Shirley. I think The Hurt Locker was a woman director. Forgotten her name as well. You've come up with the one question where I feel really bad that I'm not coming up with great answers. And I'm lucky in the fact that my next person that I'm going to mention in my comments is the last one. Thank God for that, because I think I've blown my brain. Sorry I've given you a good answer. I'll definitely come back to that one and probably make it a topic or something in the future. Yeah. Martroid is the last one. Thank you very much, Martroid. Last but not least, I finished up watching Sex Education last week too, Del. The show wrapped up quite nicely, I thought. Gosh, I love the look of the countryside where it's filmed too. Gorgeous scenery, isn't it just? I haven't been around there either, and I looked it up, and it's not too far away. It's one of those things where in my youth I'd be all over it, like going to see where The Prisoner was filmed. I'd go and see there for definite. You also say superb deal on the Fright Night, Del. Another classic from my teenage years. Love that cover, so ghoulish. Yes, and me and Rock God have deliberated that cover just with the lovely blues, the silvery effect. It's just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And with that, that's the end of the comments. And we're going to get approached now to what we've watched on YouTube and what we've watched of your stuff. And I'm just going to take a quick break. I definitely need a drink and just a splash of water on my face. So it won't be a moment. And so we move to watched on YouTube. I feel so much more refreshed now. And we always cover my two favourite shows that I watch each week. I've been watching them for a number of years. And that is This Week in Retro and Techmoan. I won't tell you what's in them. I just recommend that you consider going and looking at these channels. So This Week in Retro, they talked about The Last Exterminator, which is the spiritual successor to Duke Nukem. Now, I have my own opinion on going back to a mostly early 3D game and then modernizing it to an engine now, but looking more like Quake 2. But it looks incredibly nice and one to consider. They talked then a little bit about nickel plating as part of the retro brighting regime for old hardware. So what they're saying is taking out the metal like the RF plating that used to stop radio frequency waves that have now got rusted and so forth, cleaning them down and then nickel plating them using electrolysis. Haven't thought about electrolysis since I was at school. So that was definitely one I listened quite closely to. And the last one was the iTouch conversion kit for the iMac G3s. Now, I'm never a big Mac thing, but it was interesting to watch because it's something new for me. That was definitely a good show. Definitely recommend that. And Techmoan did his number one A1 job of audio tech with the Sony neck speakers, the SRS-NS7, which are like 250 quid. And what they do, Sony, is they promise Atmos sounds from a speaker that you rest on your shoulders, much like those neck pillars that you get on a plane. And he said, what a load of bollocks that is. Now, the reason he says that is because of a couple of technical things that you need to be aware of. One of them is that Atmos uses HDMI because of the bit stream required to get the audio out, and the fact that it goes to speakers as many as 9 for overhead, level with your ears, plus center, plus bass. So these shoulder speakers, which I believe don't have cones that direct sound, are just shooting upwards. So they must be using like spatial technology. Plus, you have to use this puck that goes into your TV, and it's not connected by HDMI. It's connected by a SP diff cable, which is just like a coaxial cable. It's not fast enough. So if it only pairs with a Sony TV to get Atmos, they must be using technology or software technology to make it work, and it must be then fake, therefore not using proper Atmos speakers to do it. If you want it to be a walk around speaker, so it's resting on your shoulders while you're doing the cooking and stuff, it will be just 2.0 stereo. For 250 quid, you're having a laugh. And I couldn't agree more with him. Definitely worth a watch. Then RMC The Cave did an interesting video on a back to basics with Agon Console 8, which is a new 8-bit console designed for you to write basic things around with hardware in it that allows you to draw things, vectory, sprites, color manipulation, etc. An interesting thing, because most people design consoles now to emulate consoles, or to have the same technology as it would back in the 8-bit days with a few bells and whistles. This one is purposely designed for you to write your own code and not try and run Commodore 64 games or anything like that. So it was an interesting video to watch. That was RMC The Cave, if you're looking for that. The next one was a real grind, and one that I went, oh my God, how bad is this? And that was the pilot for Only Fools and Horses in the States. And this had Christopher Lloyd in it as Grandad. I was so surprised by it and how awful it was. I mean, it was broadcast on the YouTube channel this week by the Only Fools and Horses Appreciation Society. So just type in Only Fools and Horses Appreciation Society and go and watch a 22-minute pilot of Only Fools and Horses. Or don't, because it was atrocious. And then Seb's Place. He was great because he's done another bang-up documentary where this time he talked about, well, naughtiness in 8-bit is how he called it. And it's where we were all as teenagers having our new Commodore 64 machines or Spectrums or Amstrads of that time and playing Samantha Fox strip poker. But it also goes into the depth with Barbarian, with Maria Whittaker and that famous poster, along with a gladiator that was on there. And it even goes over to the poster art for Game Over, which had the infamous heavy metal cover magazine cover that was used for the game, with the famous nipple that had to be removed. And it goes into even more depth with Crash Magazine and Your Sinclair, where they showed models that used to be used for games like Vixen. And also into the censorship of Oliver Frey's drawn artwork for Barbarian, which had a lot of gore. You couldn't win in those days. If it was scantily clad women, it was bad. If it was gore, it was bad. If it was a male muscular figure, like a gladiator, wrong. Very, very interesting documentary. That is Seb's Place. Definitely worth it. And then we move to the movie stuff that I watch, because I sort of split my week now into movie discussions, because movies is big in my retrospective desire to remember things from the past. And we've got some standout moments here. The first standout moment, and oh my God, this one's a must, is Rock God 2004, who did an interview with a director of a film. That must be such a scary prospect to do, to actually sit down, write out all the questions, film an interview with the director and the leading actress for a film that's just been released. And he did an absolutely impeccable job. He should be very proud. He said he's proud of himself. He said he was scared shitless. Not surprised, mate. I'm just going to do that. Absolutely fantastic. So pleased for you. Stretching your goals in what you're trying to do and what you enjoy doing. Got to be commended. He obviously finished his Sex Pistols 1 and 2 7-inch documentaries. So there's a part 1 and a part 2. Both are around about an hour long. Definitely interested if you're into that, but also if you're just interested in vinyl, because he talks about vinyl an awful lot, not just about the Sex Pistols. So that's worth it. And then he did The Exorcist arrived early for him, the collector's one. He did an earlier one where it was just a steel book, and he took that apart for us, showed us what was inside it. Mine arrived a day later. So, happy with that. Those are all brilliant. Then we get to Jake Talks Movies. Now, this is a guy that I've recently come across, and I've started watching his videos, and he has a very, very young and new insight on films, and he's one of those people that is not shy to go back to the well and look at older films and give an opinion. All of these people, by the way, including the people that I watch that have been friends of mine for years, are in my descriptions. I really do urge you to look there. And Jake, if you're watching this, absolutely fantastic stuff, matey. Keep up that pecker of yours and basically keep bringing out that content. We all love it to death. We then have Let's Get Kicking Movies. That's my friend Ryan that I do some watch-alongs with. We did a watch-along this week of Dog Day Afternoon. Now, this is a film that is already known to be a classic, and I knew it was a classic, and I've seen it. And I think that was the one thing about it compared to Rock God and Scott that were there. I think Scott had seen it, Rock God hadn't. Rock God got there for, I think, the most out of it. He even turns around and says it's Al Pacino's probably finest performance, and you couldn't really argue with that. I do, because I think Scarface pips it. And I've seen Taxi Driver and a number of others, so I hold back a little bit on it. But from a film that was very, very early, it's a fantastic film. It does deserve multiple watching, but it's not one that I want to watch again personally myself for at least another year. It's one of those ones where you watch a day go bad, and it's just that day. And once you know the steps of that day, you know what's coming up, if you see what I mean. You can clear your mind, don't get me wrong, and get the same enjoyment. But it's just, there are certain films that I could watch, and half an hour later I want to watch it again. And to me, that's not that film. But as a piece of drama, as a piece of celluloid history, as a piece of entertainment, as a film to watch as a story, as a film to respect, it's up there. And the interesting other thing, and I mentioned it at the end, and I think they appreciated it, especially I think Scott and Ryan, was there was one tune at the beginning which was Elton John, and then nothing, no score, no end credit music, silence. So you're getting the quintessential acting abilities of everybody involved in that story, and that was the way to do it. I think music would have spoiled it. Brilliant stuff. Ryan, thank you so much for allowing me to watch that with you. That was brilliant. Then we've got Forgotten World of Films. He's doing a great set of documentaries on the top 15 films of certain years, and he's now into the noughties. I think the next one is 2009, if it's not already out. It's premiering shortly soon. Absolutely fantastic. He holds up a copy of the film for each one, and basically talks about his opinion on those films, watching them, and remembering them. And if he hasn't, he's watched them recently, so he can give an opinion on them. Best way to go with that. So much of us watch things with rose-tinted glasses, or read up about it and take it as read that it's a classic. Wrong thing to do. Have your own opinion. Andy, fantastic work. And then we get to Friday's movie chat with Scott, the movie critic. As I said, every single one of these names are in my description. I was involved in the talk in that, and I mentioned that at the beginning, that I had a whale of a time. I felt so sorry for Keith at the time because he was having technical problems getting on. But when all that was out of the way and we started to talk, we crossed streams with opinions that was of what was mentioned in the comments, and that's the best way to go. You get such a buzz, you get such a lot of information, you get enjoyment watching people like me on the camera talking about films, and films that I haven't seen, I've learned to go now and look up and watch. Always the best way to do is that you get something out of it, and I kind of put it better myself with what David Retrogaze Played Badly said: every day is a school day. And with that, that's what I watched on YouTube. And we now get to what I've watched of your stuff. The people that have supported my channel the most, the people that I talk to in Discord, the people that I have a great respect and watch their videos and support their channels on. And we get to Down the Rabbit Hole. Now, he's done a couple this week, my God. He's done a collaboration with Swifto. Now, if you don't know Swifto has been around probably longer than all of us. And he's reinvented himself many times, and he's got a new channel. It's a premium channel, a Swifto premium channel. And I definitely recommend that you look Swifto's name up, because even his old stuff, which you can still watch, is worth a watch. But he did this collaboration interview type thing, and it worked really, really well, because I got an awful lot of information out about Keith, Down the Rabbit Hole, who I've known for a while now. And it was just great listening to the questions that were coming out from Swifto. I'm very big into interviews at the moment. In fact, watch this space. I've actually deliberated something with Jake and Rock God, and you never know. That's all I'm going to say. Down the Rabbit Hole continued with a video about vellum, which is, if you don't know, it's a word that's used in D&D an awful lot, but also in period pieces, because vellum is a type of paper. And he wanted to know, after playing D&D for a long time, after being an extra in a film and visiting sets and all of that sort of stuff, he wanted to know what vellum felt like. So he ordered some. You can actually buy it on Amazon. That was interesting. Hadn't really thought about it. And then he played this casual game called Sips on the Game Boy Advance and found it the most unusual game, because there seemed to be no end. And it was like Lemonade Stand, the program that you used to write in computer class about where you ran a lemonade stall and you had outside forces like the weather stopping your ability to make money, how much lemon costs, and the market where lemon goes up in price, and all sorts of stuff where you're trying to build up your business for lemonade selling. Sips is a coffee shop, but it didn't seem to be a score. There didn't seem to be an end. All you seemed to do is, when you made money, you bought something extra that enticed people to go into the store, spend even more money, and ad infinitum, wash and rinse. So, yeah, interesting one there. Reminded me a little bit of Little Computer People, of a sort. Just a sort of like a world inside a computer that you sort of watched and had part manipulation in. Nothing more than that. Don't think it'd be one I'll be looking up and playing soon, no. But I'll leave you to your own judgment. Please watch that video. Then we get to gaming since the 70s. My mate Steve, salute to Steve, we all do that. He's done a couple of videos. One I haven't watched all the way through yet because it came out today. So he did Baby Burks on the Commodore 16, which was entertaining, because the Commodore 16 is not well known for its high-end games. But this one was a sort of a mismatch of Robotron and Seamus and a number of others. But that was worth a watch. elevator action on the MSX, which I watched because I just recently played elevator action on my Mister, which is the arcade core. And so I was intrigued to know what the MSX one was like. He played some various games by a company called A&F on the Spectrum. That was great because there's a varied amount of games there. And then there's the one today called Hercules. Now, if you've ever want to know a game that's so divisive, so Marmite, it's Hercules. Because it's a do it this way, only this way game, or die. And the bad point about it is if you die, you don't have the same, you don't get to play that level again straight away. You get a random other level. So if you think of 17 levels, the first level comes up on the screen and you play it. When you die, when you come back, you're playing level 12. And then you're playing level 5. And then etc. Until you completed all the levels. And from that point of view, it's very difficult to learn what mistake you made because your brain doesn't retain that information. It's going to be fun because he's added a death counter to it. So I want to see how many times he dies. Robert's Retro Gaming. We all love and respect Robert. He's on holiday at the moment. I think he's now back. But he's brought out his content for Minecraft in Exile and Minecraft in Play, episodes 83 and 94 respectively. If you like Minecraft, it is the go-to channel for Minecraft. And he did a couple of Atari 8-bit games. They were Binary Parasite, Good Digger, and Poker Solitaire. They were interesting because they're all different types of games, all from around about the same era, and fun to watch. That was the important thing. Were they fun to watch? Yes. Then we get to LFC Gamer and Vlogs. He's a great guy. He's a big supporter of my channel. He offers a community question for you to answer each week, and he's done his blog. And he's done his blog was split up this time in the hour that he did, in regards to pickups, Gareth Southgate, the 10 mile an hour, no, the 20 mile an hour speed limit that's now being imposed across the country. The pickup this week was a PS1 console, so it wasn't a piece of software. So that was great because then he could reminisce about the console itself and talk about it. The Gareth Southgate rant is great if you're into football. Probably not so much for me, but I was an interesting listen and I listened to it all the way through. And the 20 mile an hour speed limit that we're all trying to get our heads around at the moment. Yeah, everybody's got their own opinion. Everybody's got their own arsehole, basically, haven't they? And from that point of view, I noticed that I now go through a 20 mile an hour zone that's not near a school. And the funny thing is, you hit it very abruptly, because I have to go along a road that's got a national speed limit of 70 miles an hour, and then suddenly you're slowing instantly down to 20 miles an hour. No slowing down to 40 and then 30 and then 20. It's straight 70 to 20. Bang. And it doesn't catch me out, but it's just such a jarring thing. And then we come to Ponder, who's done it. 3 weeks has gone, and so he's done a vlog. Definitely worth checking out his vlogs. Very technical guy, always willing to help. Talks about his last 3 weeks. And to be quite honest, it's quality. Can't say any more than that. And lastly, but not least, I just want to mention something that's going to be happening to me and my mate Mainmeister on the 5th of November, where we're doing a 12-hour stream. Now, I'm heavily pushing this 12-hour stream, not because I'm in it, but because it's for charity. It's going to be entertaining. There's going to be interviews with, I think there's about at least 10 of them, from people that have been in the computer industry all the way back in our childhoods. So we've got people from Palace Software, people from Task Set Software, lots of that going on, plus random other things, like there's a game score challenge, there's an auction, all sorts of stuff. It will run from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening of Sunday, November the 5th. So you could finish that and then go off to a fireworks display. You'll still be able to make it 8 o'clock. I hope you'll join Mainmeister and I in that stream. I'm really, really looking forward to being, it's not second in command, but a support for my friend who's now got to endure 12 hours totally focused on him, which is no mean deal. And that's the end of the blog in regards to what I've been watching, doing, etc. And we get to the stuff that has arrived this week. So we'll switch camera. Here we go. Woo! And a couple of things that have arrived this week. So this has arrived this week, the Steelbook of Starship Troopers. I'm very late to the game for getting this. It's an oldish transfer. It's at least 3 years old, but apparently it's a pristine transfer, and I didn't have it in my Steelbook collection. Not the best of covers, but I'm quite happy with the cartoony nature of it. All those skulls look lovely. The blues pop. Absolutely wonderful. There's the back. It's just a J card. But if you've ever seen a Paul Verhoeven film like RoboCop, you'll know that Starship Troopers incorporates the same type of satire. Definitely worth your attention. I've got a replacement to my Steelbook of Westworld because it's got a different cover. It's got more the poster cover. That was cheap. Very much worth a watch. Westworld is one of my favourite films. We've got Demolition Man, same cause and reason. Not a 4K, just a Blu-ray in a nice deluxe packaging with a Steelbook. One that I wanted to have because it's a fun popcorn film. It may be science fiction, but it's got so many jokey comedy moments. It's so fun, it's great. And then it's got all of those action sequences that you're bound sure to get with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes as the main stars. Another Steelbook that came through, I mentioned in my unpacking of the Spider-Man game, is this lovely Steelbook to house the Spider-Man game in. It's very matte and spot glossed. You can see it sort of looks embossed, but it's not. Look at that. It looks like it stands out, but it's actually flat as a pancake. Absolutely lovely. Great colours. There's the back. Nothing too spectacular there, but it looks lovely as a one piece when you open it up. We then get to Hellraiser. Hellraiser has just had a 4K pressing, and I believe it's Arrow, yes it is, that have brought out a 4-disc set of Hellraiser 1 to 4. There are more than 4 Hellraiser films. It's a cutaway slipcover, very unique in the fact that it has cutouts on the hard slipcase. It's then got a red film to go over the top of a background art beneath it. So there are 3 layers, all giving a different perspective to the cover. And then you've got all 4 films, which is Hellraiser, Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, and Hellraiser 4, Bloodline. I recognised the first 2 of those immediately and had great enjoyment back in the day. It doesn't get much love these days, Hellraiser. Pinhead is definitely a character up there with Candyman and the rest of them. But he doesn't get the love anymore. And big things were bigged up about those films. I mean, Stephen King actually turned around and said he had seen the future of horror, and the horror is Clive Barker. And it is very, very inspired by Clive Barker. So that's definitely one to consider. We've then got another box set. This one again is from 101 Films. I'm starting to get used to some of these boutique labels, but this one is Memento, a Christopher Nolan film. Definitely want to give this one a rewatch. It's one I watched back in early 2000s, I think about 2001, and loved it to bits. So I'm glad I've got that now in my collection. Hannibal has got a different type of story. Hannibal is a great film, in my opinion. It's a Steelbook. It looks lovely. But there is a collector's set, and I've ordered that, and it's on its way, which makes this redundant. I'll probably be sending this to Jake or Nigel, but it will probably be Jake this time. And just a fun film to have. Ridley Scott is very visual, so expect a lot of visual elements, gore, whatever, unusual setups in films. Last but not least, the most expensive, which is the Halloween trilogy of the new ones. It's a steelbook set, deluxe. Notice the foam inserts to protect all of the discs in there. J-card goes all the way round. It's a tin with steelbooks inside, and it's just immaculate. There are a number that are being reported as damaged. My one came undamaged. I'm very happy about that. And all of the discs tell the story of Jason in those 3 films. And with that, it's the end, other than, you guessed it, media playback. So we'll cut to the media playback. We will shut my microphone off because I've waffled on for far too long, and we'll sit back and watch a number of trailers together. They are of films that have just turned up that I've just shown you, and they are of films that I've watched this week. And with that, I'll cut the mic off and you can listen to some film trailers.
The person I'm looking for is quite well known. He's killed 14 people that we know of.
You ever think he might come after you?
Oh, at least 30 seconds of every day. Hello?
Is this Clarice? Hello, Clarice. I've been in a state of hibernation. I need some action, Clarice. I need to come out of retirement and return to public life. I couldn't help noticing on the FBI's rather dull public website that I have been elevated to the more prestigious 10 most wanted list. Is this coincidence, or are you back on the case? If so, goody goody.
I have information about Hannibal Lecter.
Fantastic.
You're trying to catch him yourself, aren't you? He killed 3 policemen while in custody, tearing the face off one of them, and he will kill you too.
Are you by any chance trying to trace my whereabouts? You naughty girl. Confess to you, I'm giving very serious thought to eating your wife.
I have seen the future of horror. His name is Clive Barker. Hellraiser. Beyond any terror you have imagined. A nightmare.
No.
Unlike anything you have witnessed, is born. Because within these walls, the unholy is unleashed. Hellraiser, a film by Clive Clive Barker. We'll tear your soul apart.
I have this condition.
The condition?
It's my memory.
Amnesia.
No. It's different from that. Since my injury, I can't make new memories. Everything fades. If we talk for too long, I'll forget how we started. And next time I see you, I'm not going to remember this conversation.
What's the last thing that you do remember?
My wife.
That's sweet.
Dying.
Lenny!
I guess I've already told you about my condition.
Oh, well, only every time I see you.
You don't remember where you've been or what you've just done.
No, I can't make new memories. It's like waking. It's like you just woke up.
When you find this guy, what are you gonna do?
I'm gonna kill him.
Maybe I can help you find him. Are you sure you want this?
My wife deserves vengeance.
Do not trust her. She's gonna use you to protect herself.
I think someone's been trying to get me to kill the wrong guy.
You can question everything. You can never know anything for sure.
Teddy, don't believe his lies.
You wander around playing detective. Well, maybe you should start investigating yourself.
Who did this to you?
You did.
I want my life back! Why are you asking me? I can't remember what I've done. I have no short-term memory. Since my injury, I can't make new memories. Everything fades. If we talk for too long, I'll forget how we started. And next time I see you, I'm not going to remember this conversation. I don't even know if I've mentioned before. I've told you this before, haven't I?
Rico, what's the moral difference, if any, between a civilian and a citizen?
A citizen accepts personal responsibility for the safety of the body politic, defending it with his life. A civilian does not.
The exact words of the text. But do you understand it? Do you believe it?
I don't know.
Most of you will not live to be in the mobile infantry. The trouble is, you are not good enough the way you are. Hands at your side.
What's going on? Hey, what's going on? War! We're going to war!
Everyone fights, no one quits. Don't do your job, I'll shoot you. You get me?
We get you, sir!
Welcome to the Roughnecks.
Podcast Roughnecks!
Tell you something. I'm from Buenos Aires, and I say kill them all.
Yeah!
end of a century, ravaged by violence, a society of perfect order will arise. Criminals will be frozen and reprogrammed in cryogenic prisons.
The prisoners are ice cubes. Their criminal instincts are being reprogrammed as they sleep.
Aggression and deviant behavior will be totally eliminated.
He's a criminal the likes of which you have never seen. In a bad time, he was the worst.
I'm gonna love running this place.
But in the year 2032,
This morning, Simon Phoenix escaped from this cryo facility. We are, quite frankly, not equipped to deal with the situation.
amidst a world of peace and calm,
We're police officers. We're not trained for this kind of violence.
How was the fiendish Simon Phoenix apprehended back in the 20th?
In the end, it took just one man, John Spartan.
You mean the Demolition Man?
The conditions of your parole are full reinstatement into the SAPD and immediate assignment to the apprehension of Simon Phoenix.
two mortal enemies
Just dropped in to say hi.
from another time.
Pass is over, John. Time for something new and improved. Oh, hell.
Will be unleashed on a future that isn't big enough for the both of them. Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, Demolition Man.
And there we have it. Some wonderful trailers there. Some wonderful memories. I'm quite looking forward to opening up my Blu-rays and 4Ks and watching those. And I know I say it all the time, and many people know I haven't opened a lot of my discs. I do watch digital copies, of stuff. But nothing beats physical media. And when I really say I'm looking forward to opening these, I really am. Because they're going to give me the optimal picture and sound experience. And they're going to bring back so many memories of me watching them in the cinema. And with that, I'm going to say be good to yourselves. Thank you very much for watching. I know these things are long. Too long, probably. But as a diary, I'm loving it. Not a chore, just pure pleasure. And I hope you have a great week, and I hope you join me next week. Till then, salute, and thank you. Bye-bye.